Welcome everybody. Oops. Welcome everybody. I'm going to call the meeting to order. And Sharice, you want to take the roll?
Sure. Good afternoon, everyone. So I'm going to call the College Council members. Dan Burke.
Here.
Jim Coffey.
Here.
Sal Braven.
Here.
Heidi Kelly.
Here.
Christina Ubel.
Here.
Thank you. So that's 5, Heidi.
Okay, so we have a quorum. That's good.
Yes.
Before we approve the agenda, I want to welcome Christina to the College Council. It's nice to see you online. Someday, maybe we'll get to meet you in person. I'm starting to forget what people look like and sound like. So, but welcome, and we're glad to have you on board. We're especially glad to have another council member. It's been a long time since, we still don't have a full group, but we're getting closer, so that's good. So welcome.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
Good. All right. Approval of the agenda with the change that Dr. Agnetti proposed to move Josie up. I'll take a motion to approve the agenda.
Move it. Ms. Dan.
Okay, Dan made the motion. Second.
I'll second it.
Al. Okay, and all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, so we'll move ahead with the agenda. Now we need to approve the minutes from the November 15th meeting. Those went out last week, so hopefully you've had a chance to read them. Are there any changes or corrections? Okay, I'll take a motion to approve.
I'll move that.
Okay, Jim, second.
Second.
Sal, good. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, great. So those are approved. Any public comment? All right, we'll move on. All right, Dr. Agnetti, your report, please.
Thank you. Oh, first of all, good afternoon, and thank you to everyone who's here this afternoon. It's great again to join you. And first, I want to join in recognizing Christine Ubel, and thank you, Heidi, for acknowledging that we have a new member of the College Council. This is very exciting, given the time that it takes. And I had a great conversation with Christine earlier this week, and she indicated that these types of appointments do take time. I think the word we want to use is years. But anyway, that's a whole different story for a whole different day. But again, I want to officially welcome Christina Ubel to the College Council. And as I indicated, that in terms of the timing, we received official word just last week of the governor's appointment. And Christina is a proud alumna of SUNY Plattsburgh, class of 1999, if my memory is working today. And as we indicated in our announcement, Christine has been a successful certified financial planner here in the Plattsburgh and Burlington areas for more than 20 years. And Christina, if you'd like to share any additional thoughts, I'll turn the floor over to you. It's an unusual way to give a report, but I'm sort of sharing the opportunity here.
Putting me on the spot. Let's see, I graduated from Willsboro in 1995. So I'm from this area. I moved there when I was 10. So I typically say I'm from this area, born in Stamford, Connecticut, though. Been a member for the Plattsburgh community for a long time. I'm a member of Rotary, which is where I know Ken from. I've had some dealings with Ann Hansen as well. And thank you for the congratulations there. Just looking forward to it and hoping to add some value. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Christine, and again, welcome aboard. And it's always wonderful to add members to the College Council. So thank you, along with you. And I think in the time that I've been here, James Coffey as well as one of the 2 new individuals. So let me just jump into the campus report and bring you up to speed on a few items and issues that are occurring on our campus. So first of all, I would be remiss not to say that this is our 5th semester affected by the COVID pandemic, and I would say the 5th consecutive semester. And just like each of us on this call, certainly our students have an incredible level of exhaustion that can certainly lead them to being weary and overwhelmed. And again, I would need to acknowledge the fact that the faculty and staff on this campus are in the same category. There's a tremendous amount of exhaustion and weariness as this pandemic moves along. What I want to simply let the council know is that our focus remains on student success. And this goes just beyond the classroom, beyond the residence halls, in the work that's occurring with extracurricular activities. I know that Ahmed isn't able to be here today, but certainly the work that the Student Association is doing to provide students, in many ways, other activities and distractions to make it a little bit feel like a regular semester. And I'm pleased that we have a high degree of activity in athletics this particular semester as we move through this COVID impacted semester. And I just almost want to say that, you know, we care for each other, care for one another, and we continue to care for our students. Question that I received is, I typically receive is, well, what's the vaccination rate like on the campus? And at this point in time, our students are predominantly vaccinated, and they have either received or plan to receive their booster doses. And approximately 69% of our students are what we call triple vaxxed in terms of the initial 2 vaccine series or the 1 J&J plus the additional booster. And the remaining students are in place to receive booster doses. So we'll have 94% very shortly of our students that are triple vaccinated, which is a wonderful benchmark for the campus. This information helped place us in an excellent position as we process the return to campus instruction on January the 31st. And I'd like you to know that we've been working with the Clinton County officials to connect our students to the vaccination site that's held at the community college. In fact, we've coordinated to have what we're calling the booster bus, which will help us move students back and forth between here and Clinton Community College to receive booster vaccinations. There's also a thought that we might hold a clinic on our campus for those who are becoming eligible for booster shots later this month. Excuse me. With respect to the cases that we're seeing on campus, isolation and quarantine space has a much quicker turnover now because of the reduced times that are required by the CDC and what's been provided to us from the local health department. And as we sit right now at this moment in time on February 14th, and oh yes, happy Valentine's Day, the campus currently has 3 on-campus cases and 17 off-campus cases of students who are in isolation. And over the last 14 days, we've seen 67 positive cases from our testing, or approximately 1.8%, which is far below currently the New York State percentage of 4.7%. And I want to assure you that we continue to monitor the local, the state, and the SUNY requirements for indoor masking and face covering requirements. And we will certainly adjust those as conditions indicate. And last Friday, I sent a message to campus indicating that the SUNY system would maintain its indoor mask requirement until further notice. So moving to campus operations, changes in enrollment and student success were made over the winter break. And in appointing Corey Jackson, who's on today's Zoom meeting as our interim vice president for enrollment and student success, the campus has I'll say, a very experienced divisional leader who brings both confidence and collaboration to this position. Since arriving on campus as a residence hall development director in 1992, Corey has held a range of positions of increasing responsibility within the division, most recently serving as assistant vice president within ESS. Most important has been Corey's long dedication to students through areas ranging from student involvement to campus life to activities and programming. And as I wrote to the campus and shared with you earlier, we will evaluate the best structure for the division over the course of the semester and plan for any resulting searches that will be necessary. And these include adjustments to staffing to support areas this semester during this interim appointment. Also, since our last meeting, Dr. Richard Miller, who is also on today's Zoom meeting, has been appointed as our interim vice president for diversity, equity, and inclusion. Dr. Miller started his work in December, and I look forward to his wisdom and experience to help shape our collective progress moving forward. There are open positions in the division that Dr. Miller will be working to fill this semester, including leadership of the Truth, Racial Healing, and Transformation Campus Center. I want to assure you that our commitment to and investment in this work will continue to expand. 5 executive search firms have replied to our RFP request to support the VP search, and these are being reviewed now. Provost Herzog, who's not able to be here today, will be leading the search committee process and will work on this moving forward, as well as with the return to campus later this week. Middle states, just want to let you know that we're advancing with our middle states self-study. And again, this is part of our reaffirmation of accreditation for campus. Our middle states site visit chair, Dr. Ron Novichuk of Frostburg State University in Maryland, and the visiting committee members have now been selected. And the on-campus site visit will occur on April 3rd to the 6th. So relatively short time frame. Our initial draft work was pronounced as being in good shape by Dr. Novichuk, and the self-study executive committee has completed its final changes to the report. This will be finished up this week and sent to the Middle States group by this Friday, February 18. I want to thank wholeheartedly all those working so hard to contribute to this report and to add their voices to the process. It is important work, and it will continue to make a difference as we gain our reaccreditation later this year. One of the self-study standards focuses on governance, and as part of the SUNY system, we are always aware of our place in the larger slice of state higher education environment here in New York. A new interim chancellor, Dr. Deborah Stanley, began work just 4 weeks ago. Her decades-long experience as a president of a comprehensive college will serve us and the system very well. Dr. Stanley understands who we are and what we face as we navigate the landscape now and in the future. As you're aware, Governor Hochul submitted her first executive budget earlier this month. SUNY sees this as a positive for being called out for a major role to support the state. The system is also called out to better connect the dots from classes to careers. And much will be put on SUNY to figure this out during 2022 with key changes that will be earmarked for the 2023 year. As you read through the governor's State of the State address or State of the State address connected to the budget, the governor intends significant change for the entire SUNY system with a focus on employer needs, our unique identity as a comprehensive college, and movement to a funding model that creates more incentives and grants in our allocation model. So I would say stay tuned, more to come there. I want you to know that specifically though, I'm working with our representatives to help advance these goals and meeting this week with Assemblyman Billy Jones. Key parts of the executive budget that will assist us greatly are, for example, no reductions in programmatic or direct support, an elimination of the TAP gap, and a reset of the Excelsior program tuition rate, and certainly some needed reform to streamline the academic program review process. We'll know more as we go through the state budget process and contemplate our steps for the 2022-23 budget year and beyond. And as we do this, we know this is change and it will require us to change, but it should not startle us. And I'm simply going to say right now that this can and does connect well with Plattsburgh Next, our new strategic plan, which will be detailed to the campus community over the next few weeks. The main pillars of our new strategic plan, which included many of you in its development, are focused on enrollment/students retention. Second pillar, or the second aspect, is student success and career readiness. The third pillar is equity and inclusion, and the fourth pillar is North Country engagement. As we advance on these fronts, it's important to highlight the role of shared governance, and members of our campus community certainly have a responsibility to participate constructively in conversations and feedback, and leading this then to us to make decisions that reflect the shared input and values. It's foundational to this college and my work as president. So goodwill, a shared commitment to our mission and trust are at the roots of this success. Achieving this ideal has been historically challenging at many colleges. And as I mentioned at the beginning, the pandemic has raised more barriers here and elsewhere. And in naming employee morale as a concern, I'm putting it out there so that we're not ignoring this fact. I and certainly the campus shares a desire to improve and address it. Over the course of this spring semester, we will conduct an employee survey to better understand some of the texture of this on our campus. I've also started to hold regular office hours to meet with faculty, staff, and students in a systemic way that supplements my regular conversations around campus during the day and in the evenings. And a new lounge space for faculty and staff will be opened in early March for the entire campus to take advantage of. I want to be honest and say that none of these are solutions per se, but they are steps that will lead to greater understanding and better next steps ahead of us for all. And finally, we're beginning preliminary conversations on what a campus welcome center may or might look like and how it might come together. And capital projects like this take many years from inception to completion. So we're at the very, very earliest stages. But ideally, we'd like to create a space that intentionally welcomes visitors, alumni, and the community through a common gateway that celebrates who we are and clearly shows the goodness of this campus. These conversations will continue this semester as we consider ideas and options. So in closing, I want to thank each of you, members of our College Council, for your service to the college and your support on behalf of our students. And so Heidi, I'll turn it back to you. And if there are any questions, I will answer them. Thanks, Heidi.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions?
I don't have a question, per se. The one thing I was have thought about is, and I don't expect an answer today, but I taught at the School of Business for a long time, and it doesn't have a name, and most good business schools do have a name associated with them. And I understand that there was always a hope that we'd have a donor that would contribute money and, name the school after him or her. I don't know if that's going to happen, but to have what I think is a absolutely top-rate business school and just say, well, that's Sable Hall. I just don't think that's a great thing. And like I say, I'm not, I know that you're not prepared for this. So it's something maybe we could talk about for a minute, maybe the next time we meet.
Sure, Jim. And I think I would share your enthusiasm for the idea of a named School of Business rather than just everyone saying SBE. Not just sort of tongue in cheek. It'd be wonderful if it was, to say that the Coffee School of Business. Not that you're on the hook for that, James, but I think that's a conversation that I'm having already with Ann Hansen. And so I think exactly to your point, I'll say food for thought and certainly something we can continue to address.
Great.
Thanks
Alex,
for bringing it up, though.
Alex,
Yes, Alex.
this is Dan.
Oh, hi, Dan.
As far as the Chancellor's office or position goes, what's the rumors? Are they going to have a national search? Is there plans to do those kind of things, or they're just sitting and taking it easy now, just status quo with an interim for a while?
So I can share with you that the conversation has been that we will see the search to end all searches for this. This is going to be a very extensive search process that's been placed in terms of the conversation. This is my pejorative view of this. Dr. Stanley is a phenomenal asset to our system. She served as the president in Oswego for, I believe, 26 years. The word wisdom is probably the first, I'll say, descriptor for Dr. Stanley. She understands the comprehensive sector. She understands budget. She understands how the state operates. We are so fortunate that even though Dr. Stanley was about to retire, and I think we essentially plucked her from the precipice of retirement, she is incredibly connected and able to drive the system forward. And I think it's probably no accident that the Chancellor and the way in which the governor's budget has been organized, that it reflects the respect I think that the governor has for not just the system but also for Chancellor Stanley.
You just made me think of something. Obviously, you came to us a couple of years ago. How many vacancies are there right now at the president's level at the SUNY system?
Oh,
I was
gosh.
always surprised when there was more than I thought.
Yeah, so, I think about the comprehensive system. There's 13 schools that are part of the comprehensive, and I have to sort of do a mental map of the state of New York to be able to pop around and see where they all are. So I can tell you, for example, we have, there are 13 presidents within the comprehensive. I think I'm sitting at either number 4 or 5 of seniority of the comprehensive presidents right now. Maybe it's not quite that, but it's in that range of 4, 5, or 6. We have new presidents at Purchase, at Fredonia, at Oneonta. We're launching a search for a new president for New Paltz. We'll be launching a search for a new president at Oswego. Just completed a search for a new president at SUNY Empire. We are going to be doing a search for a president at Potsdam. So there's a lot of flux right there. And I think the other ones I think are pretty much solid. Brockport, check. Cortland, check. There's nothing going on there. Buff State, nothing going on there. We have a new president at Old Westbury who joined us about a year and a bit ago. So that's sort of the status as I sort of count the 13. Well, I don't have 13 fingers, or I'd be pretty special. But I think as I do those counts.
Thank you. Just curious. Thank you.
Hey, Alex, this is Sal. A comment and then a question.
Sure.
I think my comment, I'll start with a comment. I think the governor's proposal on SUNY budget allocation, I think it's a pretty novel one. I'm interested to sort of get your take and maybe Josie's, but I just think an incentive-based allocation system in my view, would be more beneficial to the comprehensive colleges. We're not really playing Hunger Games anymore with the rest of the system, trying to fight for money versus, hopefully in any incentive-based program, sort of equity is taken into account. So, and equity obviously being a broad term for, specific resources and allocations and demographics of the specific institutions. So, so just my comment, but I certainly, if you have something to.
So I think what's interesting about your observation, Sal, is that recently in a national study of institutions that have an impact on social mobility, SUNY Plattsburgh was identified as, I believe, and I have to rely on Kim to make sure my memory is correct, I think one of 6 SUNY schools that have an impact. We're in the top 113, 114 out of 3,200 institutions that were listed. So maybe it's not that number, maybe the number is 1,200, but it's a big number. I think actually we're in the top 10% of institutions that are having an impact on social mobility. So that's a powerful, in many ways, positionality for the campus in terms of how do we support the capacity for students to not only receive an education, but to have in many ways, a social mobility aspect to having a great life and a great opportunity for a career. So the idea of incentive-based is always wonderful. We don't have any details yet on this. That's part of it that's going to be worked out. But you can rest assured that the 13 comprehensive presidents get together, and I think rather than waiting to be sort of passive on this, is becoming a little more proactive and looking at ways. Well, what does this mean for the comprehensive group? What are what are the niche aspects that the campuses can actually leverage to demonstrate that we're fulfilling that piece of an incentive? One thing that I'll also continue to stress is that SUNY Plattsburgh has a really unique position in terms of the North Country of the 7 counties here that we serve and support. I would say that SUNY Plattsburgh, as a partner with North Country business and certainly healthcare and education, we can really drive the economy and the vitality of this region through the work that we do. And when I meet with the Chamber of Commerce or I meet with our leadership within the Development Corporation, there's tremendous interest in how do we build the capacity here in the North Country to attract future business. And I think SUNY Plattsburgh plays that, in many ways, a pivotal role to provide talent for healthcare, for entrepreneurship and business, going back to Jim's comment about our wonderful business school. And so the healthcare, the education, and the business pieces are really, really a powerful way in which we help build the capacity of the North Country. So I think that combination, and it does relate to the strategic plan, those things actually put us in a place of serving the citizens of New York in a really unique way. But I believe as we looked at the strategic planning process, we found that we have a tremendous amount of impact around ideas of environmental responsibility and sustainability, and certainly the work that's happened here for equity and diversity and inclusion. So those components come out as a special contributor to the goodness of not just the North Country, but I think for the state. So, and I don't know if Josie has any more to add about the incentive-based budget, if there's been anything that Saboa has hinted at.
Lots of little conversations have happened over probably the course of years and well before my coming to SUNY 5 years ago about the funding model. It needs revision. It needs an overhaul. It needs to be more aligned with the operations of today. There are a lot of concerns, though, that I have about doing the right thing, which I never really hedge on doing the right thing normally. But there are concerns amongst, in particular, the comprehensives about a change in funding model that would actually reduce our funding. And that is a serious concern, and quite honestly, a driver for lackluster involvement in conversations from the comprehensives. And so when you outnumber the university centers, even from just the number of bodies, 4 versus the 23, and we see the state fluctuations with the community colleges and their funding model that's based off of students, which, as President Ignetti knows, California has done that as well, and kind of moved away from that for a number of reasons. So I really have no, I'm not sure where it's going to go, but this isn't a new conversation. I think that it's going to be a conversation for years. I don't think that an interim chancellor is going to undertake that. There's a number of reasons also for more delay in those conversations. The SUNY also doesn't have a chief financial officer for the organization. That person left about 6 months ago. And so they're doing a national search for that. That individual will clearly have to get a lot of involvement. And the state, New York State's budget process is very much still ingrained in the PORC, or the line item funding, that really leads one to do this advocacy and campaign for one's own particular needs on a campus, as opposed for a system-wide. And so I think that there are a lot of components that need to be evaluated and discussed before there really is going to be a funding model change. I mean, there's also some really systemic old accounting things that they do with the state that also hide some of the state funding, and it makes it a little confusing for the general population and or the legislators to understand. So it's a complex mess, and it's going to be one that whoever picks up that challenge from the leadership of the chancellor and the board of trustees is going to be extremely political.
Yeah. Thanks. My question is, so as you identified, 5th semester of COVID, society, I think we're coming on close to 2 years, but has there been any thought given, or will there soon be sort of a team together to sort of reimagine where all of the resources that are being expunged in support of COVID would now go? I mean, both bodies and just general money. Do they just sort of revert back to where they were taken to, or are we thinking sort of, okay, using the pandemic to sort of pivot in a direction where, maybe before COVID did not allow.
So I know Josie's just eager to jump on this question. I'm going to say one word and then I'll pass it to Josie. Perf. And that's all I'm going to say. Josie, take it away.
So, well, thanks, Alex. That's pretty much the thunder. So the federal government has provided, the higher education relief funding, and then that has gone directly in the hands of our students. That has been wonderful, fabulous. And then the college itself gets institutional support to help offset those expenditures that we have done. The expenses related to COVID, the direct impact of those expenses, things like testing, pool testing, face masks, sanitizers, some physical office adjustments and things of those nature. Those are all being, in essence, covered by the higher education relief federal funding that we received. Sorry, my phone's ringing. I can't turn it off unless well, that's right. I can hang up on somebody. That's the only way to do it. I know who it is. It's okay. No worries. And so those monies are coming back to then kind of make us whole, in essence, for those direct expenses. I think part of what you're talking about is the manpower, the whole shift of people's days and times to address and make sure that we're keeping ourselves and our students and our campus open and healthy, right? And that's been a great deal of effort, primarily, I'd say, on our student health center, our emergency operations, our pool testing site, assigned individuals. And every campus has done things a little bit different. For us here at Plattsburgh, we're kind of reassigning and readjusting people's focus for the day. We're leveraging a lot of student employees and students who need volunteer hours in our sororities and fraternities to help with our testing center, and kind of reassign some people to help do those things. So it's not necessarily an increase in people or expense, I'd say. It's been a reprioritization of what we need them to do today. And so what that means is it's just impeding our ability to still move forward with the programs and services that we should be paying attention to, right? They've been kind of redirected because we really just didn't have the resources or the bandwidth to really increase our hiring or services for other people. So hopefully does that address your question, Sal?
Yeah, and I just want to,
Yes,
first of all, thanks, Josie, for describing that. What I would say is that when we began this planning process back in 2020, it was health and safety of the campus, and everything began and ended with that health and safety concept. To your point, Sal, I was a pool tester in testing at the testing site through 2020-21. Monday mornings from 9 to 12, I was in the back room with I was gowned up and I was combining people's saliva into one tube. And that's not a very glamorous job, but that was part of the pitch-in sort of can-do attitude that campus had. We know we don't have the capacity to do everything, and we don't certainly have the resources to do that. But everybody pitched in a little bit, and it's amazing when a lot of folks do a little bit, a big amount can actually occur. So I think that's sort of the powerful message that I've learned here working on this campus is that every cardinal, whatever they could contribute, they contributed to this, and that little bit that added to each pile, to the pile, grew to an incredible amount of effort that went on across campus. So thanks, Josie. So one more thing I wanted to just go back to, and you mentioned this in terms of the incentive-based idea, and I don't want to belabor this too much. With the governor's budget, there was a decision to go 2 + 2 + 60. And that's the way it was in the university center. So Albany, basically, I'll make sure I get this right. So Binghamton and Albany and Buffalo, University of Buffalo and Stony Brook were kind of characterized as being in a special group of 4, and then the rest were sort of lumped. But then later on, there was divided into comprehensives and technical schools and the community colleges. But one of the things that the comprehensives have working with them is the fact that if you take Empire out of the equation, because they're down in Saratoga, and just talk about the comprehensives, the 12 remaining comprehensives are in locations that are in many places fairly rural, fairly low density, but they have a huge economic impact on their local communities. So you have 12 comprehensives that not only are educating and providing social mobility, but they're also providing an economic driver for their community. And when you do the math, roughly 5,000 per of those 12 schools, that's 60,000 students that are being impacted as well. And where we are right now for our enrollment, it's dipped below 400,000. So we're sitting somewhere between, close to 25%, or maybe I'm a little underestimating it. Maybe it's closer to like 20% of the enrollment of SUNY is associated with the comprehensives. So we have tremendous impact on economic vitality. We have tremendous impact on local community education and the impact that we have for just jobs. And the last thing I'll mention to that is as we go up and down Route 3 here in Plattsburgh, many of our local employers have not been able to maintain hours that are typical 8 in the morning till 5 or 7 in the morning till 6, because they haven't had sufficient people working for them. We have 2.7% unemployment here in Clinton County, which is incredibly low. But with the return of our students, we're starting to see some of these businesses be able to expand their hours. So not only do our students drive the education of our friends and neighbors' children, not only are they helping with healthcare, not only are they helping with entrepreneurship, and Christina Ubel is a strong example of business and entrepreneurship being driven by a cardinal, but they're also driving the day-to-day operations of big box stores. If you're a Panera Bagel fan, that's driving that as well. If you like to go to the grocery store and stand in a short line at the deli versus a long line, they help shorten the lines as well. So there's a lot that goes into the equation of the goodness and the impact that the comprehensives have. And I think that has to be part of the conversation as we move forward. So thanks for letting me expound on all these things.
Okay, any other questions? All right, then I think we'll turn it back over to Josie for her report.
All right, well, did we have enough budget conversation already, or? All right, so we talked a lot about the New York State. The college is also embarking on our budget process. We've kind of kicked it off over the past couple of weeks, and we're continuing to improve the structure that we have and the services, I'm going to call it, to help account managers and financial managers across the college understand their budget, understand their expenses, and be able to help position us in a positive way going forward. We are continuing our strive towards financial stability. Excuse me. Excuse me. Towards financial stability. We're entering our second year of a 3-year reduction plan. So this current year, 21-22, we did reduce our state budget by 7%. And all the vice presidents have been challenged with reducing our expenses again, going into 22-23 by another 7%. So that's kind of a big deal because we're getting pretty lean on our machine. As you all know and have heard before, our primary expenses are salaries. And so as we reduce our budget for our state operating program, that just means that we have less money to pay for other goods and services, utilities, for example, things of that nature. So we're really being challenged to think smarter and think more efficiently so we can ensure that we have the right services to support our students achieve their academic goals, which is graduation. Just a few capital construction project updates. One of the most exciting is our Memorial Hall. So Memorial Hall Phase 1. So Phase 1 is basically the lobby area and replacing what used to be the pool area with a new recreation gym. That's open, available. The students are using it. That rec gym is filled with students enjoying the courts and playing basketball and a number of other things there. The lobby looks fabulous. There's a few items that are still missing for some of that fantastic engagement, things like audio visual that I'm sure you can understand during this pandemic. As you've all heard, supply chain issues have caused a slowdown in some of the components that we need. But if you've had a chance to come and take a look, I think it looks fabulous. I'm really, really pleased. We are in the final stages of awarding a contract for the second phase for Memorial Hall, and that second phase will address the rest of the building. So we're moving the fitness center from its current location into a temporary space the temporary space that's actually part of the new renovated parts of the building. So it is a little bit of a challenge because it's going into a smaller square footage. And then a number of the athletic coaches and the athletic offices are also going to be impacted while we renovate the rest of the building. When it's all done, the new fitness center and recreation spaces and activity spaces are going to be really what they should be for our students and for our community to enjoy our fitness and recreation programs. One of the other probably most impactful projects that we've started is the field house gym renovations. So we are going to be replacing the bleachers. We're redoing the floor. We are removing a bunch of items there. The final layout is going to be really kind of cool because it's going to have a track in the gym like it has today, but the infield is going to be a turf field. So that turf field is going to really help our athletic programs with their indoor training, as well as be able to be utilized by our community partners much better than our existing gym that we have. Other than that, we have unfortunately had way too many water main breaks this winter, having the most number of days below zero in January since like 1912 has really put a strain on our infrastructure. And so I'm just sharing that with all of you. It's just the challenges. The team that we have in place has done a great job. The last water main break that we just had last week was fixed within about an 8-hour period of time. And so they're getting really good at it. It's just not what I would want them to be good at. So we are going to be doing a study to ensure that we understand the age of our infrastructure and how we can best leverage our limited capital funding to ensure we don't have to turn off hot water in a residence hall, for example. That's, especially during the winter, is not a good idea. So I will end there. Are there any questions?
No? Okay, well, thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. And we'll turn it over to Ann Hansen, Institutional Advancement. Ann?
Thank you, Heidi, and welcome again to Christina. It's great to see another alum on the council. So I'm happy to report on just a few things today. I will start with our Launch a Cardinal program. This is a new initiative in year 2 related to the outreach to alumni to encourage them to refer students. So it's all about helping to increase the number of applications. The program's coordinated by Carrie Chapin-Levine, our Alumni Relations Director, and she works in collaboration with Allison Beebe in the admissions office. In year 1, we had 83 referrals, which yielded 41 applications. It was our first year. This current year, so far, we have 208 referrals. So we've seen a really nice increase from 83 up to 208 referrals that have yielded 103 applications. So we're more than doubling our year 1. And if we can just keep doing that every year, I'll be happy. But this is a lot of this is about branding and getting people to really buy into the idea of referring friends and family to apply to SUNY Plattsburgh. And the attraction here in all this is that the Plattsburgh Alumni Association and the Plattsburgh College Foundation basically together will cover the application fee for any student that ends up applying through the Launch a Cardinal program. So that's a quick update on that. Game on Forgiving, that program just kicked off today. We like to kick it off either on Valentine's Day or around Valentine's Day. This is all about asking our alumni, friends of the college, our fans to support our athletic programs. It's coordinated by Paula Bachman, our Director of Annual Giving, and Aubrey Brissett, our Executive Director for Advancement. Once again, we have $5,000 in prize money provided by a great, the Rattray family. I think there's at least 4 graduates, mother, father, 2 kids that are joining together to help support this program. The prizes go to the athletic teams that can secure the highest number of alumni donors is one prize, highest percentage increase in alumni donors is another prize, and lastly, whichever team can achieve the most donors overall. So the coaches really get into this. It's all about competition and having fun, and it's fully focused on just increasing the number of donors. So it's really about trying to build our alumni participation. Mike Howard and Brian Savard provide excellent leadership and are great partners in this effort. Our Ethics Institute campaign is it's gaining great momentum. We launched this effort, I think, in late November with a $25,000 gift, challenge gift from Tom Hermes. We got off to a great start with that with a couple of major gifts that came in right away. So we upped the goal and we're now closing in on the $100,000 target. I'm certain that we're going to surpass 150,000 on this effort within a month or so. And just to talk about a little bit about why this effort's important, not only does it honor SUNY Distinguished Professor Emeritus Tom Moran, who many of you all know, it also highlights a faculty development program. The fellowship program within the Ethics Institute is one of the few opportunities on our campus, especially in these budget constrained times, to provide faculty the time and space to really do a deep dive into ethical issues within their specific area of study. And look at ways to incorporate ethics directly into the curriculum and into the classroom. So if you have questions about the fellowship program, you should talk to Dr. Ray Carmen, who's here on the Zoom screen, but he was one of our fellows back in 2020. So it's a very unique program within SUNY, one to be proud of. Lastly, just to touch on events, I'm happy to say that we are gently, cautiously, safely, whatever the term you want to use, we are beginning to spread our wings a bit here, and we're breaking into more regional events, doing these safely. We have 2 events scheduled in Florida on the 14th and 16th of March. I'm strategically avoiding St. Patrick's Day, but nevertheless, traveling with President and Mrs. Agnetti down to Florida during spring break to visit with alumni. I'm very excited about those gatherings, and Paula Duke is helping to coordinate those. We have our Hall of Fame. It's one of our flagship events. That will be taking place April 23rd and 24th. Carrie Chapin-Levine's coordinating that. We've got 2 alumna in the softball area, two men from the basketball teams. We have a baseball graduate and women's soccer. So it's a nice round group of star athletes that'll be returning and to be honored. And we're also planning our reunion celebration, which is taking place in June 3 and 4. We'll be celebrating the class of 72, which is celebrating their 50th, and all classes ending in years 2 and 7. I can't say how uplifting and exciting it is to actually be thinking about having a reunion on campus and not doing sessions like the one we're doing right now. Not that this is not enjoyable, but I think bringing our alumni back to campus to reconnect with one another in person is really, that's the energy, that's the connectivity and the excitement that keeps everyone motivated to stay involved. So those are the quick topics I had to share this morning. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Anybody have any questions for Anne? It's nice to see that you're going to get back out on the road. I think that that's really important. Those connections that you can make in person are great. So
yeah, it's vital.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much. And next on our list is Denise Simard.
Hey, Katie, how are you? And Christina, welcome. So I'm going to kind of go around the horn of academic affairs, if you will. So just a reminder, Middle States accreditation visit will be April 3rd through 6th. This spring is apparently a spring of accreditation visits. The School of Business has an AACSB reaccreditation visit on May 1st through 3rd, as does the nutrition program, same dates. So we will be quite busy this spring. In addition, at School of Business, their online business administration program had a soft launch for the spring. They have 10 students currently enrolled and 3 additional students for fall 2022. At the branch campus, they're busy providing valued professional development and student workshops. Then in February, they are conducting academic success workshops around such issues as time management, study skills, and mindfulness. In March, they are having a climate change workshop. And in October 2022, they're having a vulnerability workshop regarding better social media and mental health. And Anne, you mentioned the Ethics Institute. Some of the events happening there is they've initiated remote colloquies. There's a 2-part conversation of democracy and demagoguery. And then they'll be also hosting colloquy leaders from the US, Canada, Great Britain, and the West Indies. And on May 4th, when everyone is really rested after accreditation visits, they're having a full day in-person workshop, and they'll have a live screening at the end of that day in Yoakum Hall. So for more information there, contact Jonathan Slater. And then finally, but not least, is EHHS. And EHHS, some enrollment initiatives that we are kicking off in fall of 2022. Our social work program will be a completion program and fully online. Additionally, our MST program will be fully online. And finally, we have a proposal for our birth grades to grade 6 special ed certificate program for certified teachers. We have that in the pipeline to also be offered fully online. So Sal, when you were talking about some pivots, one of the things that we've learned out of COVID is that place matters, but that place isn't always Plattsburgh. We can make a difference in the community in which you're in, as well as the Plattsburgh community. So that's something we learned as a result of COVID. So that completes the report for academic affairs.
Was he muted? Any questions for Denise? Okay, thank you. We'll move on to Corey Jackson for enrollment and student success. Welcome, Corey.
Hi, thank you for having me. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Every other Moodle I seem to have no audio, so this must be the odd number for the day. So I wanted to address something Dr. Nietti said at the beginning, that we're all exhausted. We are exhausted, but I'm really optimistic too. I wanted to highlight that you know, it's nice to start returning to some in-person meetings, more in-person activities with students. I think that's giving them a lot of optimism, and it's certainly making staff feel happier to come to campus. We're kind of reconnecting. So I didn't want it to seem all doom and gloom. I think we're feeling positive. With my appointment as interim vice president, the president also created an interim dean of students position, and I wanted to talk about that. So Steve Matthews has been appointed as the interim dean of students, and we've done a little restructuring for that, really trying to put some of the forward-facing student services more directly connected to the dean of students. So they are working more collaboratively. I think it should mean better services for students, more coordination, and easier access to some things. So under the Dean of Students model is the Campus Housing and Community Living Office, the Center for Student Involvement, Veteran Services, Conduct, and the Student Health and Counseling Centers. So for some of you like Sal, who I knew way back in the day when he was a student, we're kind of going back to a model that we've had previously with the Dean of Students, sort of a campus life model. And again, I think that's already creating opportunities for collaboration and smoother service for students, a lot more efficiency. Couple of highlights in admissions hit their spring semester targets, enrolling just over 350 new students, which was where their target was. And in terms of fall 2022, things are on track at this point. Let's see here, our applications for new freshmen are up a little bit, about 6%. EOP applications are up 18%. Transfer applications are down, which has been a pretty consistent trend the last few years. Global education, international student applications are way up. We actually had 30 new international students just this spring. We haven't had that many new international students in a spring semester since 2012. So the world opening back up is creating some opportunities there for enrollment. Athletics, having a great men's and women's hockey season, as you're all maybe seeing in the news. So we are looking forward to hopefully hosting some postseason play here on campus in the next couple of weeks. Men's and women's track and field, indoor track and field also doing great. Senior night just happened for our basketball team, so very active there. And I'll put a plug in again for the Game On Forgiving campaign that Ann mentioned. That's really a highlight for the athletics department. Won't go through all of our departments, but the Career Development Center, I wanted to highlight. They're doing their usual very busy slate of workshops with students, appointment-based, walk-in hours, helping students with resumes, with networking and those types of things. And the Career Center is also working with the city of Plattsburgh and the town of Plattsburgh right now to try to solidify a more concrete internship pathway between the city and the college. So Dr. Nietti met with the Career Center and the mayor recently, and I believe that the supervisor of the town of Plattsburgh has been pulled into that now. So hopefully more to share in the coming weeks, but looks like we're on the way to a good partnership there. Another thing we're all looking forward to, as many people have referenced, getting back in person for summer orientation. It would be the first time since 2019 that we've welcomed students to campus in the summer for orientation. Also, the Upward Bound program and EOP programs are hoping to, unless something changes, have in-person programs this summer. And I think that will be a real boost to morale and also be a big benefit to retention of students when they get here in the fall. Having had that chance to connect with us before they get here really makes a difference. Also, just a couple other names to throw out. Backfilling behind me in the Center for Student Involvement is Jacob Avery, who's acting in an interim director role right now. And then in campus housing and community living, backfilling behind Steve Matthews in an interim role is Jim Sherman, who's been up in that office for many years. And I think I'll leave it at that and answer questions that you might have.
Any questions for Corey?
Corey, this is Dan. I know our concern over the years is that our catchment area, our natural catchment area is shrinking in size in terms of students. But it sounds like your enrollment for the incoming year is on track. Where are they coming from? Is the percentage of, if you will, international students or students that are far away from our catchment area? Is there anything obvious there that you could talk about?
It's pretty, that's a great question. It's pretty early. And I will put the caveat that our applications are up, but our acceptances are not right this minute. So that's a little nuance there. But no, it's our typical North Country, Albany, Long Island, New York City, pretty similar. I mean, again, GEO is a much smaller percentage of our overall class in any given year, but you know, to say a 30% increase could be 15 students, 20 students. So we do expect a pretty banner year for GEO in the fall as well for global education.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Usual markets.
Thanks.
Any other questions? All right, thanks again, Corey. And we'll move on to Dr. Richard Miller for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. Dr. Miller?
Well, thank you, Heidi, and good afternoon, everyone. I am now beginning my third week on campus and getting used to all the offices and getting oriented to a number of meetings and councils that I'm participating in their activities. It's been interesting so far. I'm in this business for about 40 years, and I've held all kinds of risks, administrative risks over that period of time. Department head, dean, provost, vice provost, and having spent the last 13 years on the campus of Western Kentucky University in Bowling Green, Kentucky, which is where I call my permanent home. I'm originally from Ithaca, New York, so I'm not totally unfamiliar with the weather here in North Country, although I'm looking forward to a little bit warmer weather later on this week, as Alex had mentioned. So it's been, again, wonderful getting to know the campus, working with all the vice presidents and deans and the provost. There are, about 5 major committees and councils that I am currently working with at the moment. The Community Campus Safety Advisory Committee, the Direct Team group, the Truth, Racial Healing and Transformation Center, which is terrific. I'm very, very proud of SUNY Plattsburgh as having been one of 48 such centers around the country. The Racial Equity and Justice Institute that I'll be working with Alex on, and the President's Inclusive and Excellence Council, which we will be meeting later on this week. So we're in the midst of, as most of you know, of Black History Month. We have a number of activities scheduled for this month, and I'm looking forward to interacting more intimately with students and some of our BIPOC student groups. I'm an advocate, passionate advocate for our BIPOC population and understanding and appreciating diversity within higher education. So it's good to be here, and I think I'll end it at the moment, and I'll bring any questions that you may have.
Any questions?
No, welcome. You could have come at a warmer time of year, but welcome.
Well, that stretch where we had -15, -16 degree temperature was a nice way of welcoming me to North Country, and I appreciate that very much.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Okay, thank you for your report.
Thank
And
you.
That completes the divisional reports. So next up would be Marty's chair report, but we'll skip that since he's not on. And everyone, I think, received the Student Association President's report from Ahmed. Sheree sent that out with the agenda this morning. So if you didn't get a chance to see that, his report is in your email. Then we will move on to campus governance. Dr. Rezak.
Hi, everyone. I want to start with something that I talk about at every single meeting, even though Alex has already effectively covered it, and that's Middle States, because I have been living and breathing Middle States for about the last 2.5 years. So I just want to mention, as Alex said, this is kind of the final week where we're finishing things up. So just to give you an idea of the scope of that, we're doing like final edits of the 100-page self-study report, just like looking for any missing periods and commas, any place that there's any sorts of mistakes in the final version. We have also, along with the report, there is an evidence inventory where we have hundreds and hundreds of supporting documents that we have to provide to Middle States. Those have all been uploaded into the system. There's like 1 or 2 documents we're still waiting for, but otherwise that's all been uploaded into the system. So we really are on track to finish this by Friday, which is the absolute deadline to have everything uploaded in and buttoned up. But obviously it's stressful getting the last few little bits done, but we really are in good shape on all of that. There will certainly, as Alex said, the actual visit, the virtual visit is in April, but before that there will be, we'll need to send the self-study out in the final version to campus, hold some meetings so that people can ask questions about it. Certainly drafts have been going out, but to make sure that everyone is aware of the content of the self-study, to prepare them for the visit, because during that visit, the different team members will be wanting to meet with lots of different groups of people. So we need to make sure everyone is aware of what's in that report. Switching gears a bit, one other thing I do want to mention, and for those of you who are new here may not be aware of this, we have shared governance on campus. There's also a faculty governance that's SUNY-wide, the University Faculty Senate, and I, as presiding officer, I'm one of the people who attends those meetings, and so I just wanted to mention that the last meeting that was held virtually was just a few weeks ago. And to give you a sense of the sorts of things that it involves, Q&A with the chancellor, with various other SUNY system officers, the provost, someone representing budget, and we also pass resolutions at that level. And I did want to mention the 2 of the resolutions that were just passed in January, and one of them even relates to Dan's question earlier about the chancellor search. This, obviously, the last search, the lack of search for the last chancellor was controversial. And there was pushback by the University Faculty Senate at the time saying, not against the person, but against the lack of a search. So there was a resolution that we endorsed, that the University Faculty Senate endorsed at this last meeting, basically calling for a more, let me find the title of it, calling for a more clear process of choosing search committees, putting together a search committee, the composition of the search committees, and actually really requiring that there be a search committee for searches at the chancellor's and at that executive level, because there isn't anything in place right now. There's a very detailed process in place for campus presidential searches, and this resolution is basically calling for something similar at the chancellor's level. So that's a resolution that we had endorsed in January. One of the other resolutions I'll bring up that was passed at this meeting was one about equity, inclusion, and diversity, a resolution about the advancement of historically underrepresented faculty. And this was a resolution basically calling on campuses to do more, if possible, to
really to work to hire and support and retain historically underrepresented faculty. And there were a list of different things that should be considered. And so again, this was a resolution that's then going out to campuses, asking campuses to do what they can, and giving some ideas of things that maybe aren't being considered now. And that certainly has been an issue on our campus that has come up as something that we want to do more to again support, to hire, to retain underrepresented faculty. So that's certainly at various levels, local and at the system, that is a big issue. So I think with that, I will end my report.
Sandra, this is Dan, just real quick. I apologize for not remembering. It's probably been told to us many, many times. How often does the Middle States thing happen? When we're done with this one, when do we have to do it again?
Well, it's changing. So it will now be, and Alex may have to remind me, I think it's changing now. It will be every 8 years. So, and there's usually a midterm report that we do in the middle, a smaller thing, but I believe it's changing to 8 years. Alex, do you know if that's correct? We're kind of in the middle of this changeover, but I'm pretty sure it's every 8 years that we have to do the comprehensive evaluation.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so Sandra, I've heard 8, but I don't know. Right now.
Okay.
Like
Yes,
maybe Ken can jump in. Ken has his pulse on reaffirmation as well.
I'm the weak link of the Middle States group, but I'm there, man. Yeah, I believe it's 8 years, and I believe the process of the PRR, the 5-year review, is modified with that. So it's a little different process in the future.
Yeah, so it sounds like we're on the same page. It used to be 10 years. We're now switching over to every 8 years, and then with something smaller in between.
Okay. I have a question. Was the selection of the last chancellor, was that a fairly typical process, or was that unusual?
It was incredibly unusual. So in the past, chancellors have always been selected through a search, recommended through a search committee. And it was always a broadly representative search committee from, representatives, faculty, staff, presidents, system administration, and then they would make recommendations to the Board of Trustees, who have the final decision. The last chancellor was simply appointed by the Board of Trustees. There was no search. And so that's why there was a lot of controversy in the beginning about it. And there was pushback from governance bodies at the time about the lack of process. And so again, there's a push again to say there needs to be a search. And we at the plenary in January, the chair of the Board of Trustees was there, and she did say that she wants broad representation, that she wants input. So it may not look the same as previous searches have, but it's clear that there will be input from the various stakeholders.
Thank you. Anything else? Okay, then we are going to move on to Ray Carmen. Dr. Carmen.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. For those of you who I haven't had the chance to meet before, I'm Dr. Ray Carmen, Associate Professor of Political Science and Chair of the Faculty Senate, hence my being here with you today. Faculty Senate has met twice since this body has last met in November. In February, we didn't have any new business, but in December we did, that I want to draw your attention to. We passed a resolution recommitting ourselves to creating a supportive and inclusive environment for all members of our campus community. And we called upon the college to institute a mandatory diversity training program, education program for the college, for the administration to work together with the unions and others responsible for that type of endeavor, to create a plan so that we can make sure that we're doing all we can to create a diverse and accepting community. So in terms of new business at the Senate, that's the only one since we last met. And so that's my report. I'm happy to answer any questions that any of you may have. All right, thank you.
All right, thank you. All right. Dan Gordon is going to give the UUP a report today. So Dan, are you on? Yeah.
Yes, I'm here. Can everyone hear me? Okay, good. Sometimes my microphone doesn't work. For those who don't know me, my name is Dan Gordon. I'm the Vice President for Academics for the UUP chapter at Plattsburgh. And I'm filling in today for Michelle Toth, who can't be here. And she just gave me 3 points that she wants to make, and I'll read these to everybody so that we can be informed of what's going on in SUNY. The first is UUP advocacy for SUNY. UUP continues to be the leader in advocating for SUNY during the current New York State budget process. The governor's proposed budget is a step in the right direction, proposing to close the TAP gap in 1 year rather than over several, and the increase in funding for EOP programs in particular will directly benefit SUNY Plattsburgh. But after more than a decade of cuts and unfunded state negotiated salary increases, clearly more is needed to address the financial structural deterioration that SUNY has faced. The second item is the UUP contract negotiations. The current New York State UUP contract is up this summer. UUP's process for preparing for negotiations is underway, and we will be ready to go to the table later this spring. And the last item is workplace civility. New York State UUP Joint Labor Management one-day workshop on workplace civility is being offered to members on March 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. It will be an online workshop. And after the incidents made public with the former SUNY chancellor, UUP is working with a committee to draft a proposed SUNY-wide workplace civility policy. It's estimated that the draft policy will be submitted to the current SUNY chancellor sometime this spring. That's the entire UUP report. Any questions?
Okay, thank you. Any questions? All right, then we'll turn it over to old business. Anybody have any old business to bring up? Any new business? All right, with that, our next meeting is Monday, April 18th, 1 p.m. It says in person. We'll see about that. Hopefully that's correct. And with that, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Move it.
Dan, and second. Christina, you want to second that, please? Okay, she seconds. She waved at me.
Yes, thank you.
All right, then all in favor to adjourn?
Aye.
All right, and then I guess we'll see you Monday, April 18th at some point. So thanks, everybody. Stay
Thank you.
warm.
Stay well.
Thanks, Heidi.